I got to kick this thing off. Can I kick it off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Ladies and gentlemen, listen.
Conversate with Us Radio presents the Man Listen Show. We are the blackest radio show on the internet. We bring you our opinion on topics that affect the black community in an effort to enlighten, enrich, and empower every brother and sister that falls under the sound of our voice. We operate on a no-hating frequency, so be prepared for us to keep it 100% real and 100% black all the time. Please follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Man Listen Show. Click the link in our bio. You can purchase our products. Go to our YouTube, click the bell icon so you can be notified of when the next show drops, and just tell everybody about the blackest radio show on the internet, the Man Listen Show. I'm your host, Marv B. Let's bring the crew in. All right, shout out to C. I wish he was here for this episode, but Sean Combs, P. Diddy, he was partially acquitted. He was charged with racketeering, prostitution, and what's the other one? Sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Found not guilty on racketeering and sex trafficking, but he was found guilty on transportation for prostitution, basically the Mann Act. If you know anything about the Mann Act and its racist origins, you kind of know what that means. It means taking somebody across state lines to have sex, illegal sex, whatever they deem illegal. Back in the day, it was interracial sex. Now it's, prostitution or anything like that. So he was let off on the two serious charges, the ones that had life sentences behind them. But the charges that he has right now, each count is up to 10 years. So if the judge decides that he's going to have to serve those consecutively, that'd be 20 years. Now, from what I've read, the sentencing guidelines for somebody like Puff, first time offender, it's around 21 to 27 months. That's the general guideline, but of course, and I'll let Rico, chime in on this because she's the resident attorney. The judge could say, I'm not going for that. And, I got my opinions on this, but Rico, just from a legal perspective, then we'll come back to you as a black woman. From a legal perspective, what are your thoughts on how the case was handled and the jury's decision?
I mean, I think the jury's decision was on par for what we saw. I thought that the prosecution was going to start with what was going on with Cassie, and their case was going to move more towards the racketeering part. I don't feel like they really put any effort into trying to prove that. Or if they did, the evidence just either escaped me or it just wasn't that, impactful. So I think a lot of people expected him to get off on that one. Sex trafficking, I think too many people feel a way about Cassie being a seemingly willing participant to have put him away for sex trafficking. And I think the prostitution part was clear, but a lot of people have an issue with the participation and the level of involvement in the prostitution that the witnesses against him had. So I think that considering all of that, if the judge is just going off of the evidence and what happened and the fact that he's never been convicted of anything before, I don't see him getting that much time, honestly. I mean, I really don't know why he would, because, except for the black man going to jail factor, I don't think there's a real reason for him to get the book thrown at him. But I think the jurors' issue was that, people take a very strong stance on Cassie. And so depending on which side you fall on, that's going to determine whether or not you think he's guilty of these crimes. My issue with Cassie has always been that she was a child, basically, when all of this started. So I think there's a level of, what's it called? When you're trying to prepare the child, grooming. I think there's a level of grooming that happened with her that influenced her involvement throughout the process. So I don't think she, as a child who was groomed, could be held entirely liable for her, mental state while participating in this. So, I think it seems fair from what I've seen.
So before I bring Lav in, I'll say this, that Puff's been denied bail this whole time, and he's been continued to be denied bail. even now. His attorneys try to get him out now. And the judge has said because of his violent past towards Cassie, that he's a flight, and they consider him to be a flight risk. They're not giving him bail. So if we take that in consideration, the judge may just say, okay, because of your violent past, um, you're not a typical first time offender, so I'm gonna throw the book at you. It's possible, right? It's possible.
Mhm.
To your point about Cassie, I mean, I always said that I struggled to see how this was a racketeering case, and people tried to explain it, but I was like, I don't see the Rico. I just see this as being, the feds saying, hey, we white and we say so, and we're trying to get you with everything. Um, you're right. Cassie's complicity in the matter really clouded it for a lot of people. But I think, in addition to the grooming, it's the power dynamic. He had her in some kind of crazy contract, if I remember. He basically controlled her career. That power dynamic is something that, can't be overlooked. Is Puff a piece of shit? Yes. If you saw the video of him beating on that girl, absolutely. Some of the things that he did with the prostitutes and with Cassie and 50 Cent's baby mama, borderline deplorable, absolutely. But I just didn't think that the prosecution, from what I saw, did enough to prove racketeering. Now, obviously, they didn't do that. But Lad, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when you actually look and you actually read the charges, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of stuff that was on there was sensationalized. And if you actually sit and read the charges, each one, the racketeering was a stretch to say the least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and maybe I don't understand Rico, maybe I don't understand, but I always thought that when you have like a Rico, you probably would have like co-defendants or other people that were involved in that enterprise with you. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how you could be the singular head of a Rico, right? I mean, I guess you could be, but that means there would have to be other co-defendants with him, and they just went after him on this Rico. They never brought anybody else to say they was involved with it or anything like that. So that is what it is. That was overreach by far. The the sex trafficking is one is the like you said, complicity is hard if you're in a relationship with somebody, quote unquote, for 10
Prostitution. He
years.
was he was found innocent on the sex trafficking. It's prostitution.
No. I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This is why they didn't. I mean, it's hard for people to believe that that's sex trafficking if you're involved with this person for 10 years in public. It's not, you're not being hidden. You're not being, you're in the public eye. You're going places. You're taking advantage of, opportunities that come to you. So it's almost like you are a willing participant. The text messages and so forth. So it's something I always say. If if you if he never was told I don't like this, and it was just told that, hey, I love this, I love doing this to please you, he might not. It's hard 5 years later to come back and say he was doing something illegal to me when my all my indications to him and all my communication with him was, I'm down with this, I love this, I like doing this. And so that, I think that's where the cloudiness comes in, like you said, is her role in the thing. And then the Mann Act is, like you said, it has a history in this country. And um, I think one of the most famous, the first time I had ever heard of it, the most famous case was, Jack Johnson, right?
That's when it started, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I think so too.
Jack Johnson was out here knocking out white boys and smashing white
Right,
women and shit, and they was
right.
like, "Nah, we're gonna get
And
him on
so,
something."
that leads me to, and maybe you might have been going here, but I'm wondering if it wasn't Cassie, if it had been Kim Porter or, Misa or something, that bought the original allegation, if it would even got this far. But because the two star witnesses were non-black.
So before we go into the conspiracy stuff, right? Because I got that. I think that we need to say this. You could sleep with somebody 70 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if on the 71st time they said no and you still do it, you're guilty. That's it. So if he had done it for years and she had been down with it, but then she says, "Hey, I'm no longer down with it," then he's guilty, right? But I
Right.
think for the general public, and obviously the jury,
What
they
I,
probably
I don't say
they
again,
probably don't look
again.
at it. No, I'm not saying that you did say this, but I'm
No,
just
no, no. I'm saying, but trafficking though, that's the thing. It's not a rape. It's not a sexual assault. It was the trafficking
either way.
part.
I'm saying if I was doing something that caused you to do something against your will that's illegal, um, it don't matter if you were down for however many years. When you stop being down, then you need to stop, right?
Right. But
So,
again, that's
but I don't think
trafficking. I
people can
don't.
really. Unfortunately, too many. There's a lot of people that don't understand that. They don't understand that. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So,
Yeah,
um,
because there's some people that believe that you can't, that people, that spouses can't rape their, people can't rape their spouses and so forth like that. There's people that believe that kind of stuff. So
crazy, yeah.
yeah,
I would say that the non-black woman thing is definitely it could play a part in it. I wouldn't say you're wrong. I think that we can't overlook the fact that all of this came up as soon as Puff started saying, "Hey, Diageo, you guys are discriminating against me. You're only marketing my liquor brands as urban, so you're keeping me from making more money." And then he sues them, and then all of a sudden he pulls it back because Puffy been doing this stuff. These parties, uh, this treatment of Cassie, they've been had that tape. They've been had that tape of him
yeah,
beating that girl. They could have got him. And this is my thing. I always said, with the Robert Kelly trial, I don't believe R. Kelly should have got caught up with racketeering. I think you should have got him on the first case. He was guilty of that. They should have got Puffy for beating that girl in front of that elevator. That's ridiculous. And it's too bad she didn't have any male. And we probably should put trigger warning on this for some people. But it's too bad she didn't have some male relatives that could get some get back for her, man. Because I think anybody who saw that video, man, there's no coming back from that. There's no coming back from that. But I just find it mighty coincidental. As soon as he starts suing a major company, asking for more money and asking to be treated fairly, that all of a sudden all of this comes out. What do y'all think?
I'll be honest with you. That never even crossed my mind. I'm not gonna lie to you. Because you know, I maybe just because I didn't know about it. Rich people sue rich people all the time for breach of contracts and stuff. So I'm sure that's not the first person or powerful group or entity that he's ever taken to court.
But we talk about it, he took it mainstream and he took it, he put it out there as a racial piece. And we said on the show before, you could be, you could have all the money in the world. These white folks will take it from you. They can take
Mm-hmm.
it from you by a BS court case that could drown your resources. They could do other things. They could take your funds from you. I'm pretty sure Puff still probably has a good portion of his money, properties, and all that. We'll get into a little bit later about what happens to him after this. But yeah, I don't know, man. Rico, what you think? You think that the lawsuit that he had played a part in him this coming about? Because it seems like this is all kind of thrown together. Like this all happened really, really quick. Like he got arrested in September of 24, and now we are. I mean, when did you ever see like a high profile case like this be over with that quick? And his attorneys, they didn't even call Puff. They didn't even call anybody to the stand. They was like, man, we good, man. Let's just go forward with this. What do you think, Erika?
I think that for that lawsuit, they could have definitely fought him in that lawsuit on their own. So I don't necessarily think that had anything to do with it. I think that he might have caught the wrong attention of some people and that gave them, maybe some more reason to move forward. But for me, the thing that made it all make sense for me was reading that complaint that Cassie filed. I think that we all kind of had an idea that he was scum and we all had an idea that he was, not doing right by that girl. But to read that left a sick taste like in my mouth for a very long time. It had a very negative
Man,
impact on me. And I believe that people read that and was like, oh no, we can't have this. We can't have you doing this to these little half white girls or whoever else. And then the stuff he did to her friend or blowing up houses and, shooting people was like, dude, you're doing too
blowing
much
up Kid
stuff.
Cudi's card. What?
Yeah, that's what
Right.
I'm saying. Like you're doing too much. He
Hey,
seems like a kingpin that
Puff,
needs to be taken down.
Puff blew up his car, broke into his house, kicked his dog. Like, come on.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think that complaint had people like, oh no, we can't have nobody black getting away with no stuff like this for sure.
But my thing
So
is this though: convict him of arson, convict him
Right.
of breaking and entering.
Yeah.
Don't come up with this bullshit RICO charge and use all these resources to try to get him because he's no longer favored in the court of public opinion, or he's just become untenable. Because I always used to wonder, I said, why people hate Puff so much? Like he always just dancing and yeah, he definitely abused a lot of black people. Um, his artists, right? Obviously, the people he had in his bedroom. Uh, but if you dislike him for that, I can't hate on you. But see, I wasn't privy to all that until the Cassie, that was a deposition or the paperwork came out, however you call it. Till that came out. And then once that came out, I was like, oh, I see why. Because before it was just like, Puffy's gay and he's gay and all these. It was always
Yeah.
these gay rumors about Puff. Now he's different in the
That
fact
factors in pseudo.
he's different, but to me, that doesn't justify a warrant trying to put a RICO charge on somebody.
A lot of it, I think, does factor for some people wanted to embarrass him. I mean, make some stuff public that a lot of stuff that was talked about really honestly didn't even have anything to do with these charges. It was just sensationalism, man, and just wanting to get certain stuff out to the public so people could be like, ooh, and ah. And like, I mean, thinking back on it, why did I need to know he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil? Like, that really is not material to
Why,
anything.
why do we need to know that he wanted another man's semen rubbed on his nipples? And
Yeah, that's yeah,
like, what that don't, okay, that ain't my type of hype, but
right.
and
And
then let
then
me tell you
it's
this. Speaking of embarrassing somebody, Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent.
oh man, I wonder how he feels,
Well,
man.
he already said it. He put out a thing, said, damn, he called him the gay Teflon Don. He said this N-word is the gay Teflon Don.
Uh,
Dude, dude. 50, man. Puff was now we know why you hate Puff so much, because we saw what he was doing to your baby mama. Just leave
yeah,
it alone, bro. Leave it alone. Leave it alone.
yeah,
he a troll anyway. He can't help himself.
right.
But yeah, no, I agree. I think that a lot of the information that they put out was more to paint him as a bad person, but that undercut their case. That's the problem with putting on a trial. You got to make sure that your juror pays attention to connecting the dots to get to where you want them to go. And if you all over the place, they're sitting in there like that. I'll be like, I mean, it's not against the law to, do this or that. And Cuddy, he might have came in and testified that he thinks Puff blew his car up, but can he prove it? Like, you can't get him on stuff that don't necessarily make sense. And if you could prove it, you'd have included that charge. So you can't prove it, and that's why it's not included. So why are we talking about it? Again, you got us all over the place instead of following the dots. Like, you have to keep the jurors on task because, like, the law and the elements and everything is complicated for most people. So if you want them to get from point A to point B, you have to hold their hand and get them there. And if you all over the place playing in the whole playground, you're gonna get charges that ain't gonna get, it's not gonna stick.
And that's how it should be. You should just
I
be
mean,
able
it
to
is.
throw some
You gotta
stuff
do your
out there.
job.
People say, yeah. I heard people say that the fact that the high number of men on the jury, that they knew like, nah, this ain't gonna go the way. There's a lot of women who felt some type of way about this because of their past and things that have happened to them, and I can't blame them for that. But and those are the same women pointed out, like, I knew when they had all those men on the jury that he was gonna get off. And man, that might be true, because I this in the court of public opinion, it didn't make sense to me. And I kind of was like sheepish about saying it because I didn't want people, because maybe I was missing something and I didn't want people to be jumping on me like, oh, you hate black women, whatever. I'm just like, I mean, I don't see how is this a damn Rico that this motherfucker's a freak? You know, like
It's not a Rico, it's a Freako, right?
hey, somebody said that welcome home freak off is gonna be legendary.
She gonna
Legendary.
have NDAs at the door, at the gate, and
So
you gonna be on camera signing it, agreeing,
so what you
him handing you the baby oil.
on camera. like the hostage, like I'm here
That's what you do.
willingly
You
on
gotta
my
get
own
you gotta put
accord.
your handprint and baby oil on it. You don't even sign it. You just baby oil on your hand.
It's almost my agree.
So from your experience, Erika, um, what do you think? Do you think he's going to do you think they're gonna throw the book at him and give him the full 20?
I mean, no, I don't. I think because for one, like federal sentencing is different. You can't just go in there and just make up stuff. So there has to be a PSR. There's going to be a report that comes out that basically gives his whole background, all this other stuff, and his criminal history. So the thing that usually trips people up is your criminal history. So the chart is like this. So criminal history like this, and then how bad the crime is like this. So if you have a bad criminal history and you did a bad crime, this is how many months you're gonna get. A lot more. If you don't have no criminal history, you at the top. So then all you're doing is going over to you at the bare minimum. But then when you get done with that, you can still argue for a deviation. So, and if you cooperated, you turned yourself in, you took responsibility. He didn't do that because he's not pleading guilty because he went for a trial, but you can get deductions and points for a lot of things. And the judge can deviate. Now he can deviate up or down. I don't know if the prosecution is planning on arguing for upward variation, but there's a lot of factors that still remain left out there. That's why sentencing takes a long time to actually happen because there's so many steps. The PSR has to get done. It has to get approved by both sides. If there are any changes that has to be made, they got to go change it and come back. And then we got to have sentencing and argue over what we're going to do. And there might be some agreement. They might come to an agreement on sentencing that, like, the attorneys can just come to an agreement and then work it out. And then the other thing is, I tell people all the time, if you know for a fact you're about to sit down, why come out? Why come out on bail and hang out for a month just to go back? Get that time in. Just do it. You already sitting down. Just sit down. And then so then,
That's easy
depending
to
on how
say
many
when you
months he
got,
gets,
but that's
he
easy to say
might
when you
just
got
get
five
time
kids
served.
though. You got 5 kids at home, well, shit, 6 if you count Albie's boy. You
You've been
know,
in jail all this time and they just fine. So
Right. They're financially taken care of and they can come visit him.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense to come home for a month and then you got to say
Yeah.
goodbye to them again. And then you still really basically serving that month because you don't got no freedom. You still got to go back. You
Yep.
still going back and forth to court and everything. To me, it's not worth it. If you know for a fact you sitting down, if you know for a fact you're getting out or getting time served, yeah, let's try to get you out. But if you still gonna have some time under your belt, you might as well stay where you at
so
because
can
it's hard
they
to go back.
so can they use like the Kid Cudi stuff and the Cassie stuff? Can the judge say, even though you weren't convicted of these things and it's just um allegations by witnesses on, the witness stand, can that be used to deviate from what the sentencing normally would be for somebody who doesn't really have a criminal history?
So,
Because that don't seem right to me.
right, I would like to say no, but also, why did they let that even in the trial? I would say that that's not relevant. But they, especially if he didn't take the stand, then we're not doing character evidence. They should have tried to get some of that stuff excluded that didn't have anything to do with what they were trying to prove. So because it was in the trial, I could potentially see that being used by the prosecution to ask for a variation. But that doesn't mean the judge has to accept it because he wasn't found guilty of that. But again, like you can ask for a downward variance based on I tell all of my clients, go find Jesus. They love that. Get you a church community, get a pastor to write you a little letter or something, get a job, get a letter from your employer, something like that. And all that stuff, you'd be like, look how he's changed. He's a better person. Look, he donated $1 million to the battered women's shelter. Boom. He donated $2 million to sex trafficking. Boom. These are all things that I would be arguing at the sentencing, but they can argue stuff too. And since it was in the trial, I don't see why they wouldn't be able to argue it, but you can't just necessarily say, I'm giving you more time because I think you did some stuff that you didn't get found guilty of. So They're not going to say that, but they could say, I think that your character is dangerous enough based on the totality of circumstances that more time is warranted.
What's the likelihood that Puff is sentenced and he comes home immediately with a promise to perform at the next Republican National Convention? You think Trump gonna let that boy out? Like you don't think Trump gonna let him out? Hey,
Hey,
Diddy already wrote the letter. They probably got a form letter, and he's like, and he going next thing you know, he could be at the White House or something performing, and
he gonna have a new record label called "Make Music Good Great Again." You know what I mean? And he gonna have all his no, you know what? I think that this case, to be honest with you, is something that, because it's sensationalized in the story and the domestic violence aspect. I don't think, I don't know. I don't think Trump would pardon him on that,
Trump don't,
Trump is
because
a sexual deviant.
Trump don't give a shit
It's
about.
right up his alley.
nah,
He don't
I
give a
know,
shit about.
but
I mean, he
I'm
was
talking about
convicted of
right
some stuff
away. He
like this, so
maybe when he's getting ready to leave, you know what I'm saying, office. But I don't think he was gonna like sentences in a month. I don't think he's gonna be like, all right, boom, you sentence, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you your pardon now. Because the blowback, he doesn't like negative press. He doesn't like negative stuff about him.
I think the least common denominator in the black community that voted for Trump, I think Trump is savvy enough to target them, and he would probably commute or pardon Puff to try to solidify whatever he can with the black community. I can see it happening.
No, I mean I could see. I just don't think he probably maybe commute a sentence, but I don't think the pardon is what I'm saying. Like where basically is it there's a little different.
You can go home if they commute your sentence. You go home still, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Do you think Puff can bounce back as a? Because I mean, if you think about it, Puff ain't well. He did put out that record. He did put out that album that everybody was talking about was really good. Like maybe like 2 years ago, like 2023. Puff put out an album and it was good. So he was still doing music, right? He was still doing music. Do you think he's done for as an entertainer?
Sadly, no. I mean, I'm not, and I'm not even gonna say sadly. Probably not. We just have the history of like we said, American is a lot of times people like a second chance story. And there's always going to be a niche audience that's going to be there regardless. So will he ever be back on BT the hip hop awards or anything like that? Probably not. But
He probably won't be on the stage, but he'll be in the crowd.
yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah. So
Yeah.
he'll still, as long as he still owns his catalog and his masters and all that, he has all that, he'll be fine.
I think
You
that
got to understand that predators don't think the same way we do. He don't think he did nothing wrong. So he's not going to have any type of remorse or think that he should not do music. Like there'll be some people who be like, you know what, I just want to go sit down and stay out the way. That's not how crazy people think. So I entirely think he's going to keep doing music. I think he's going to keep doing whatever it is he wants to do because I don't know.
This might have emboldened him. Like, man, I could do whatever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, to black people.
I will hope not. I will hope not.
We all hope not.
I think the thing that really hurt him, justifiably so, is that video.
Hmm.
Video of him running that girl down and beating on her. I don't really think he can come back from that. Now, if Robert gets out, when Robert gets out, if he's still able, people still gonna be at the concerts. They're gonna continue to jam his music. We talked about our feelings on that. I think because those crimes, other than the tape that came out, which he wasn't convicted for, um, those crimes, people they overlook it because it's not in your face. Pause. You can't you can't you don't see it, right? It's a crime, but you don't see the victim being victimized. I think it's going to be hard to get over it's hard to justify still supporting that dude, watching him beat that girl like that, especially if you have daughters, sisters, cousins, mothers. It's hard to just ignore what he did to that girl.
No, because a lot of people on the internet right now talking about Cassie should have got charged too. Ain't nobody concerned about what happened to her.
Right. And
Split
I
down the
think
middle.
a lot of people, there are people who will, it'll be very hard for them to look at it or look at him the same ever again and justify it completely. But I think unfortunately there's a lot of people that's not anything abnormal from their life, right? So that's just something that they've seen repeatedly, something that they may have participated in something similar or been a victim of something similar. So it's not outrageous and a shock and awe to them. So it's not anything out of the ordinary.
I'm not gonna stop jamming his music or his catalog. I'm gonna put that out there. If that's the expectation, not am I going to his concerts? Am I, support?
I wouldn't have went before either though. So
You know what? I didn't go to the Bad Boy reunion tour, but everybody I know that went said that shit was off the chain. Because you got to think about it. In the 90s, Puff was running stuff, man. He was. So I don't know. I definitely feel like there's definitely he needs to atone for what he did. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it with enough people at all. In terms of Cassie and her involvement, she's a victim. Was she groomed? Yes. Was there a power dynamic that was uneven? Yes. I do think, though, something smells fishy about that her husband and his involvement with the stuff. I can't really put my finger on it, but I feel like he's a little bit too involved. I get that's your wife now, but the fact that they talked about how you knew about the stuff that was going on beforehand, and for some people it don't sit right that Cassie got all that money from Puff, and he still had to go to court. He still had to fight for his life. Some people, I know what you're about to say, Rico, but I'm talking about what some people believe. They like, hey girl, you got 25 M's. Get the fuck out of here. We don't want to hear nothing from you. And for a lot
yeah.
of that stuff, you was complicit. So you was complicit and you got 25 M's. We don't want to hear shit else from you. That's how a
I was
lot
gonna
of
say
people think.
OJ. OJ beat his trial, still had to pay.
I get it. And I understand, but number one, a lot of people don't understand how the judicial system works, right?
Mhm.
And for some people, it just don't sit right that let's go ahead and say it, you and your white husband get payout, and you was, in some people's opinions, complicit with a lot of this stuff, and you still trying to throw the black man in jail. That don't sit right for a lot of people. Not saying it's me, but they don't sit right.
So the problem with that is that when you have a person in a domestic violence situation, the first thing that the abuser does is drive off all your family members and your friends. So the majority of people around her probably were either on his side, like his friends, and like, oh well, that don't have nothing to do with me, or like even her friend was like, she got hit once and stopped being her friend or be whatever, disappeared. That's the first step, get rid of their friends and stuff. So he probably being her trainer was the only person she had to talk to. So he might have been the first person that really started hearing about everything that was going on. And he might have been like, hey man, that's high key kind of crazy, because if I'm going to the gym and somebody over there talking about the stuff that was happening, and then she's just like, I tried to leave, but he blew up this dude's car, so I don't think I can leave. I might be like, hey man, you need to take some steps. You need to do something. And the fact that she tried to sue instead of publicly just come out and discredit him like she could have done. She could have took to Twitter and started talking about all the stuff that he was doing to her, like a lot of these people do. But
The
she
husband,
didn't.
the husband was low key doing it.
Well, yeah, he was trolling, but I think that was all because Puff was too arrogant and didn't settle. He could have settled. This would have never came out and then he probably wouldn't even be on trial
When
right
did he
now.
settle? He settled when the elevator tape
Yeah,
came
once
out.
the video came out,
That's when he settled.
Yeah.
because
That's
he
when his lawyers was like, please,
before the
please.
before the video he denied he ever even did it.
Yeah. It was his air. He's crazy. He's a predator. He didn't think he did anything wrong. And if he had just paid that girl, then she would have just went quietly on her way with her $30 million. But he's where he is right now because he's a predator and he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He's a sexual deviant, whatever you want to call it. But his whole destiny is in his own hands. Now, her and her white husband may be sitting around somewhere with $30 million, but he had a choice. He had some control over how it got resolved.
Didn't they say something during the trial that the husband was on the phone at one point listening to Puff sleep with Cassie or some stuff like that?
Yes,
Have you like again? Why do we need to know that? I
Right.
mean,
exactly.
um, I guess it was to discredit Cassie as a witness. And honestly, I think they actually did their job when it came to that because
Yeah.
Yeah,
the fact that she was discredited in such a way that probably led to okay, all right, I know this some BS. This ain't no damn sex trafficking. This freaky shit, and y'all are, and clearly you paying prostitutes.
Yeah.
Clearly you paying prostitutes. Uh,
right.
you up here calling the damn servers talking about, man, he can't even get it hard. And they was like, what you talking about? He's supposed to just be over there for company. He ain't supposed to be over there having sex. What you talking about, right? So,
Right. Supposed to be hanging out.
right, right. It's supposed to be just for companionship. What are you talking about, bro? But I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I think the fact that, and I don't know if it's simply because of his race, but race plays a part in it. Race plays a big part in it because
Everything.
If Cassie was married to a black man, there'd be a whole lot more sympathy for Cassie, especially because like there were some people that's like, man, Cassie's poor husband. He got to listen to her and how she was getting dogged out and all this other stuff. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, man, that dude, he up there counting them M's. He ain't. Hey, thanks for taking one for the team because you got us paid. Because
Right.
you ain't gonna see that as no damn trainer. And I'm
And
not trying to
but
be is it insensitive or unsensitive.
insensitive.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be insensitive to Cassie. I mean, Cassie, she she wasn't
That's what
she
that's what I'm
was
saying.
she wasn't
It's
100%. She wasn't 100% innocent.
Well, I mean, but this dude came to her rescue and she fell in love with her hero. So, I mean, dude was probably like, it's Cassie. Yes, yes, I want to talk to her. Yes, I want to. This is above
right.
my pay grade. So, yeah, whatever you ask him to do, he gonna say yeah because Cassie's above his pay grade. I mean, he's a weird looking white boy, but I mean, I
I've
could
never
see
seen
it
him.
for
I
her.
never saw him.
I haven't seen him either.
He
Yeah.
got some like funny color eyes, so I think that's kind of putting him a little higher than the category he should really be in. But I think that she's definitely above his pay grade. That's what I'm saying. So of course he's gonna come in like, yeah, I'll be your best friend. What you wanna, complain? You wanna rant? You wanna vent? Right here. You wanna be my boo? Hell yes. I mean, what else is he gonna say?
But
Any
honestly,
dude in the same situation would have said yes.
but honestly, no, I don't know, man. Cassie ain't that fine. First, of all, I don't like sisters, but let me that is gonna get me in trouble. That's gonna get me in trouble. I'm gonna say this off the air. But I was about to go there, and I'm like, no, I ain't gonna do it. But to the point, because there are enough people who feel like Cassie was complicit, and I'm not saying that I think she was partially right, but because of her payout, because of the white husband, and because of whatever level of involvement she had, there's probably going to be some people who can justify in their mind, hey, Puff good with us. And he beat the feds on a Rico. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, Puff good with us. So he probably still be good in the hood in some places.
So
Yeah.
yes, but probably because a lot of those people are rapists too. So
Yeah.
or
Well,
or have very sexist or rapist type tendencies, because a lot of them glorify being able to do what these rich people can do. And so it's like they just all they need is space and opportunity, and they would be that same person. They would be that same horrible individual in that same spot. So of course they can justify it.
well,
Well,
well, sis, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I would tell you
mhm.
this: a lot of the people that I'm talking about are women.
Same thing.
I'm not saying, but there's a lot of women that feel that way. They're just like, man, fuck that girl.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
mean the same thing. There are a lot of men that I know that had their first sexual experience when they were like 13 or something with some grown ass woman. Women are rapists too. Women molest boys or children and people, and
Grown woman,
yes,
all
and
that.
girls. Yes, they're same thing. My statement stands. A lot of these people have rapist tendencies and they're sexual deviants too, and they see nothing wrong with what they're doing. So of course they don't see anything wrong with what he's doing. But I would say Cassie's not partially complicit, because for me, it's the grooming and the fact that she was a child. And anybody who's been a victim that long, some people say she could have Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. But I know that she was young and he had too much power and control over her life. And the fact that she was trying to leave and couldn't, at some point, she probably just was like, shit, this is what I got to do. The more I piss him off, the worse it is. So if I'm making him happy, then I'm not getting kicked in the stomach at the elevator.
That was,
Right.
no,
Yeah. You know,
that was a sick
It's
image.
true.
That was
yeah,
crazy.
that was,
I
and he
mean,
was
but it's
just
true.
dragging her down the
That was
hall.
crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
That video, I wonder, and I was like, I've never been to that hotel, so I wonder he must have had the whole floor, just get rented out the whole floor, because clearly somebody would have heard that and came to their door looking like, what the heck is going on, or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Possible. But that goes back to the conspiracy theory in my mind. So what did they say? Puff paid off the hotel to get the tape, and then the feds raid, and all of a sudden they found the tape. If I pay, if I wouldn't, if I ran down my girlfriend and kicked her, beat on her, and all this old shit, right? I'm not saving this like it's some damn thing to remember, like some stellar freak off or whatever. That tape is getting destroyed.
Why are you
If
trying
that's
to make sense
no,
of his
no, I'm
behavior?
not trying to make sense of it. What I'm trying to say is that again, as soon as this dude tries to buck the system, right? All of a sudden, hey, there's a tape. If y'all raid, it's right by the baby oil, right? It's a stack of tapes, and you can get it. What I'm saying is they have been knowing this stuff. And when you're talking about on this stuff, when you're talking about billionaires, because Puff was a billionaire, right?
Yep.
When you're talking about billionaires and the level that they're on, the the tactics and the strategy that they put into place to try to tear you down is different. So that's what I'm saying. They've been. I'm not saying he like we should like we should feel sorry for Puff because he's a black man and they're trying to take him down. I just feel as if they've been knowing this shit about him. They've been knowing
Yeah.
about it. So why bring
Yes.
it up now? Why bring it up now? As soon as he gets out of line, then it becomes public. They could have did this a
No,
long time ago. That's all
It
I'm
it
saying.
it,
it's
it became
Cassie.
public when Cassie went public. When
Yes.
Cassie's
But
lawsuit.
you don't think they put a damn bat? Cassie been with that white boy for years. And all of a sudden they put a battery in her back.
Remember they opened that
They didn't
that
put a
law
battery
up.
in her back until you're right about that. They did open up the books, but she but
Yes.
she missed that though, or did she
But
or did
they
she
have
or
some
did she get
extensions
in?
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got in.
And the same way
But
you
that should
talking
happen in
about,
L.A. though, right?
yeah.
Yes. But that's
So I
the
don't know if
point.
California had a
That
different
so
law.
that's
Yeah.
what happened. They was like, oh, we had missed it. We just gonna move on. And then she was like, oh, this is back open. I got another shot at it. Let's settle, or I'm gonna go ahead and go public and file this.
Good
So
point.
that's the real catalyst. But my thing is, you're like, why would he save it like it's a great freak off? He is a psycho. Like you have to understand they think differently. Like one time this dude made me fall down a flight of stairs, came down the flight of stairs, and then started yelling at me for making him make me fall down the flight of stairs. You cannot make sense of some of these things. It doesn't make sense. And once you start trying to rationalize it, once you start thinking like them, then you're crazy too. It doesn't
But
make sense.
and honestly, I don't like you said, I don't think Puff they got the tape from Puff, because a multi-billion-dollar hotel or hotel they have, I'm sure they have some kind of system where it automatically saved to the cloud. This wasn't 20 years ago. This is somewhere they had security. I'm sure that was backing up to the cloud. They sold him a tape. They say, here, you can have the tape. It's already backed up to the cloud and it saves every 20 minutes. There's no way to go in there and delete that.
I don't know. I thought they did find it at his house.
Or the motherfucker who had the tape was like, yeah, I'll sell it to you, but he still kept the copy.
No,
I'm with you, man. I just,
yeah.
All of a sudden we just trust the feds. I don't.
I
don't trust the feds. And even
when that's part of the attitude you're talking about, why people are gonna be like, he's still good, because they don't trust the feds and all that kind of stuff.
And the
and
feds
they don't trust Cassie.
And the feds earned that reputation.
Yeah,
for sure.
They earned that reputation.
Yeah.
Keep earning it every day.
But I want to be clear that I don't feel as if Puff deserved to be absolved of being a piece of shit towards that girl. I don't.
He's not on trial for that, so
that's my point. I just feel like you should have went after him for that.
Yep.
You should have went after him for that. The stuff that he did to 50's baby mama and to Cassie in the bedroom, depending on how you look at things sexually or whatever, you might say, okay, that's sexually deviant behavior. Depending on where you're at on the spectrum for, freaky shit. Right. But again, I don't know if that justifies a Rico charge.
That was them shooting for the stars. The Rico was crazy. The sex trafficking, kind of. Because if you bring in people back and forth across lines, but if they're paid.
That's why, to me, the trafficking
is bullshit too. Because
that's not trafficking.
Trafficking
that's
is
not
like,
trafficking.
I got some young girls and some young boys that I'm setting out to people.
Yeah.
Or I got people working in my house and I got their passport and I'm treating them like slaves. That's human trafficking, sex trafficking, to right? Me. But if I'm paying grown ass men to come smash my girl while I watch, ain't no damn sex trafficking.
And I'm a billionaire, so I have houses in 3 different states. Then of course I'm gonna be we live here in New York, but we go to my LA house, we go to my Miami house, we do, so that's crossing state lines. And so that's why I was like, that's
I agree, but I think that's less of a stretch than the Rico. I thought the Rico just was completely, because they wanted to focus on all of the sexual acts. So I never saw how they connected that to the Rico. Like, he's running this criminal sex act enterprise. I didn't see how they connected those dots.
No, they didn't.
You know why? To Lav's point, before we wrap up, you remember they kept trying to allude that there's going to be a lot of celebrities. Some of your favorite celebrities is they're going to come. Who we hear about other than Kid Cudi?
Nobody.
The Punisher, yeah.
I mean, so like, yeah, how is it a damn, right? No. Now, I know if I looked up the definition of racketeering, I know that that's how they got Robert. They got Robert on the Rico. And I think he was the only one. I think he was the only one that was, because they were saying, his enablers was helping them or what have you, and whatever. But now we didn't see, I don't think there's any Epstein file. There's no Combs file that's going to come out. Maybe, but we'll see. And I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Right. And thinking back, like you talking about all this stuff, they actually showed these jurors freak off videos.
What do you mean they showed them videos?
They showed them the video.
They showed them the orgies?
Yeah.
Puff is crazy. He was recording that shit?
Yes.
Without their permission. There's security tapes all over the house. That's what they were saying. They were saying he would use the tapes against people who don't remember what happened or whatever. Hold it over people's heads.
Well, I mean, if that's they said, because to me, what is that? Not bribery.
Extortion.
That's extortion. That would fit a Rico. If anything, if you could prove it.
Got to find somebody that's going to testify.
Mm-hmm.
Most people might be thinking Puff gonna get out. I don't need a puff on the outside enemy
Right.
And I
because he
value
held a tape over my head one day.
and I value my dog's life. I don't want to break it in my shit, picking my dog.
I love my car.
I love my car.
Well, look, y'all. We talked about Puff today. Yes, we do know that this bill that the House and the Senate are pushing forward is going to affect Black people, and maybe we'll talk about that in a couple of days if it goes through. But we want to talk about this situation because it is big in the Black community. Yes, despite the contrasting opinions that we put forward in this show, we do support Black women 100%. We do not think it's appropriate to be beating on anybody, Black, Mexican, white, in that nature. But it's our job to talk about this as a situation in totality, because if whatever happens to a celebrity like Sean Combs, it definitely can happen to us. So I think it's warranted for us to discuss this, to try to educate people on what went down, along with giving our opinion. So with that being said, I think we talked about it enough. Make sure you go to our Facebook and Instagram at manlistenshow. Go to our YouTube, click the bell icon, and we'll holler you next time. Shout out to C.
Take that.
I knew you was gonna do.
Hi, I'm Rico Moore, and if you want to get all up in my business, you should check out my new book, Unsolicited Marriage Advice, where I provide an analysis of the best marriage advice that I've received over the past 16 years or so. So head on over to Amazon and buy it now.